Hello, America. It is recorded that the help of the Republicans, of the Democrats, and of the exceptions, lawyers, for example, black pupils. We have black pupils. We know the second they speak, we have only heard fake. Clearer than day, a breaching method was and is the correct answer. What caused slavery? Not our founders, who were already entrenched. What about the founders that had roles with it? Oh, yeah, because our founders had to counter extort the other founders. And that's our founders as Native Americans, as the portion that were not Native Americans that had to counter extort the other founders at 13 spots to make inside more than 13 colonies themselves in that negative value nature progression, already fact, tube nature, tortured, extorted, and enslaved. All exceptions in exception nature already employed to deny that because nature was increasingly and is increasingly demonstrating it. Just as nature is demonstrating a breaching method is involved with where and how people even got away with pretending they think that little legitimate science spoke for the campuses in New York City, from the best ones to the worst ones. The difference of that, black pupils. We have the same color eyes. We have different color eyes at the same time. They can be both simultaneously true. We see nature uses exception nature, the way we know, but in hyper additional ways. Hyper native pure ways that we know that are denied. This is the suburbs were designed before our founders were even born. North and South America, North and South colonies. The suburbs were already designed, tactically denatured. There are proofs that they even took out other to extinction consciously types of perennial vegetables. Can't be that only basically asparagus and artichokes are like basically the only perennial vegetables. You see what I'm saying? Native Americans are 1/3 of our founders. Nature itself demonstrates this. And James Madison and the agreement between him and George Washington to be our first president, George Washington. Other ways too. George James Madison really was our first president, even though he was the fourth one. But because we were told to understand him as the face of our founders. He's the one we're supposed to understand with the agreement between George Washington, and then the agreement to pretend to have the faith. I mean, to have the freedom of speech, to have the Declaration of Independence the way they pretended. They had to pretend that because the laws were so great. Slavery was entrenched still in North America, northern colonies and southern colonies, and then northern states and southern states. Those 13 spots they counter extorted at, then they had to rely upon those who counter extorted them. They had to rely on James Madison and George Washington with James Madison's plan, because it's the plan for freedom, Constitution unabridged, appreciating hyper-additional nature. Connecticut intelligence and New York intelligence, Washington intelligence community, intercities, interstates. There's a Jennifer Kanepicky associated with people. I don't know. There are people. There's a Paul Zano involved with people with the name. I don't even know his name. He has extended family members involved with planting evidences on Trinity College with FBI Director Robert Luskin and child defenders, leaders of kids. Tried to make a fake exception of Nomi years ago. That's why it was so weird. And so it has something to do with their roles with others too, along Route 3 through time, who have been roles with Whiting Forensics and with the state corrections offices. and with all names on all sides of cases, criminal and civil, prosecutors and judges and their family members, involved with people on my street with predicate acts, and rolls with untimely deaths on off Trinity College, even if they made it up. These are people that are active since I was. There are little kids from the intelligence community who will confess, demonstrate, confirm, other than they're communicating, other than they say. And they do this timed with overt criminal enterprises, private ones in a whole bunch of different countries involved with the campuses. They have some KKK themed, black themed military police, Russia, Ukraine, Hartford Hospital, Hartford Healthcare, involved with people with Weatherfield Police, wire crimes, forging names, switching names with child offenders, leaders of kids. These are also people leading up to the World Trade Center attack. In that context, in the Ninth Circuit Court next to it, they post-dated documents. These are also people involved increasingly on CSES, Central Connecticut State University, involved with people with UConn, people from Germany, people from Italy, etc., people from Mexico, people from Canada, etc. These campuses have roles with trade agreements that contain roles with psychiatry, tactically delusions wrought, black pupils, logic and reason expert, tactically delusions wrought, criminally foreign influence too. They can't afford to discern their treatments of criminally foreign influence because they are criminally foreign influence. They have Central Connecticut State University has roles with names using phrases like criminal justice. They are predicate acts with facts roles, black pupils. One of the things that is more so what American history is about is a breaching method that was a predicate acts with facts method. That is more so what caused slavery and what maintained it, and because it had an entrenched method. And everyone employed where the value of employment, what they feel about that or what they want to debate about that, used to measure and maintain. Sense for the breaching method left out. People want to ask us questions. So they have prosecutors and judges being used to measure and maintain because they have different countries with these courts and with their sources. And as themselves, forgiveness is to get the mandated law followed properly and with care. And if not, that will come with discern. But you guys have all the system broken. You guys have interbranch switching names, forging names, because they already had roles with predicate acts of facts with all names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, including ones with overt criminal enterprises and body dumping spots. And the interbranch putting fake things into the same time. And or also the rest of the intelligence on off the state corrections offices and Hartford, Weathersfield Town Line are increasingly people on off Fox News locations and on off CNN locations, demonstrably on off MSNBC locations too, but inter-Connecticut news locations. They have their family members planting evidences on off the campuses, roles. They have the time subject treatments, including because this hurts each of the branches of government too, to keep their attacks used effectively since before our founders were born, since before modern countries' leaders were born, since before semi-ancient times, religious leaders before they were born, before the needs for religions, the sciences already had become abridged. And so we don't even have scientific reception of the religions. They were written with consciousness that the people that would be speaking for sciences and or the religions and the difference of that, they would stay collusion with the breaching method uses of difference /s. Therefore, that's part of the reason why no one even knows about why at the beginning of the Old Testament it says the only part to defend is right here, where the names of the people of the sciences will come together. That's what it says about sciences. And it says only that part and the part that comes before it. See, in the beginning of the Quran too, it says love everyone even if they don't agree with the Quran. And it says if the person does, all they have to be honest about to be a good Muslim is if they agreed to call the name of the hyper simultaneous, which I'm making that my transliteration. Obviously, you could tell what that means. Hyper simultaneous, not just simultaneous, but that part beyond this we don't know too as itself. As that identity of simultaneous, that is not our species body of volume that has us with two eyes. It's not fish that has them with two eyes. There was a hyper additional, hyper simultaneous identity of hyper simultaneous. Oh God, see, people wouldn't have sense and sensibilities like this, and we would have realized that God is more probably having been a God variable, and algebra should be called algebraic consciousness / consciousness algebraic, and to appreciate what is actually discernible. Vice versa, this is true conversely / hyper conversely, for where and how nature shows us it is making more of its complete identity. And nature is a word for identity. Nature shows us this itself because of the same way identity is relative to positive and negative simultaneously. The same way, but distinctly from how values have relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. But there is one identity of volume that is generating more values, plural, as its own, as an individual body's individual identity generates more cells, plural, in generation of its own complete identity. And each complete identity is a semi-nature relationship to the identity of the hypersimultaneous. And this is more probably and demonstrably what English was revealed to be taught by the ancients. And nature shows us that identity comes before physics. Some ways, then it's simultaneous / hyper simultaneous. Other ways, physics becomes for then. In other words, we could discern this too, but more. I meant to speak of this part. People are using the identity of the sound. In other words, anyway, forget James Madison and George Washington made an agreement that no one knows about, because through our own schools here and through Russian schools there is maintenance to here and there already identities of difference / S. They were already effectively used by a human fact sheet nature breaching method before computers, using the databases, the campuses, and the systems of the republic for which we stand, which also used and was appreciating names A through Z as the species volume science, as nature itself shows us this. Species are a hyper invisible but still discernible identity of volume / S, individual group differences and species volume. And this comes with Earth's a special difference being demonstrated to us by nature, and as a proper description of reason. And I shouldn't have to say these things. I shouldn't have to debate strangers, and others shouldn't. We should simply be, in other words, they're forging names and switching names and then influencing from off campuses, collusions with foreign and domestic intelligence and medical and their extended family members, at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and overtly with terrorists since before our founders were born, the difference of that. The news at the same time, planting evidences at crime scenes even preemptively, per how everyone is used remotely, or that body is sensed, even if that body is a majority of people. Black pupils see suits and ties, counters, and exceptions when they speak. They entertain short words. They can't afford short words proper as they, let alone for them to protract. Where and how at the youngest ages we had means to understand that there was a human fact treating nature breaching method, keeping everyone roles with criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and negative treatments, like truths used for lies, as collusions with overt lies, and with the difference of who was responsible for it. Originally and still, we increasingly have foreign bodies involved when we have other names like who are involved with people communicating like with us where we're going to be. Never stopped being used investigations, investigators, their families, people that live in everyone, communication with everyone. Because this breaching method is playing the game that you could discern. Like, for example, there are no more serious, and regardless of who, even though you guys have guilt assigned, another thing the breaching method is recorded effectively doing and having done is keeping and having kept people blaming other things, others, ourselves, right, for where and how the breaching method is responsible, right, where and how, relative to where and how people are saying this, and that's all the only reason. In other words, states have states' rights that they have recorded, confessed, self-valued descriptions of criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, black pupils. That's one of the things they've used to get over on where the difference of them being the ones the most criminally foreign influenced, or the federal, or the other countries, because they have the same problem there. We are in a semi-ancient trap that also has country all groupings, because then they're going to make a voicing like for him. Oh, and humanity and peace. Real science shows that there's a difference between peace as criminal insidiousness and hyper peace, because hyper peace is hyper positive that's also positive onto itself, and there's a way to check. There's a way to check if species are going to go extinct, if they're going to have problems with water, in Michigan, for example, there's going to be, if there's lead in the water, there's a way to check if the reason that people can't afford it is really because of money, and it's not really because of money. We have the suburbs were designed before our founders were born. There is maintenance to the nature of debate, where it is not debatable and others pretended. You have people using knowledge of good and evil, want to have nature debate, leaving out what we have that is true always. The natures of logic can't defend themselves and afford to discern. They can't afford the silence or the speech of others. In other words, they're not following mandated law. So, in other words, a Ray Cololo and other people tied to him next to Trinity College, they have roles with judges planting evidences when I was a little kid. Natures of identity, theft, fraud, slanders, and with foreign bodies. But these are also with their teachers, and these are also with the difference of lawyers' involvements. This is a method that gets people on all sides of criminal and civil cases, their sources, the police involved, the mayors, or their roles, politicians, even Joseph Lieberman roles with families of judges and prosecutors who are criminally foreign influence with overt criminal enterprises. I don't know him, but that's what we're brought up to with Sammy Vega and their roles with the campuses in the intercities, interstates, international, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw, psychiatry, people with badges who have roles with psychiatry, medical databases, campuses. Central Connecticut State University has people involved. Intercities, with judges and prosecutors, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with the spots next to Trinity College, which is Tucker Carlson's college, and they have Russians involved with them, and with fire departments there, West Hartford. They have fire departments in Wethersfield, Rocky Hill. I don't know what they're doing with nuclear weapons, what do they call it? Nuclear. I don't know what they're doing with law. And then they pretend it's personal because they pretend they don't understand people. Because they put fake transcripts in databases. They put fake motivations for it. Their kids are also involved with child offenders next to the campuses, running in and hiding live progressions tied to this. Because there are remote uses of people who pretend they don't understand others, and that's how they confess things. So there's people with the name Cololo and with switching names with the name Lewis and Cleesa, involved also with people with the corners on the South State Highway, and with other people like I don't even know them, like it has something to do with their roles with Anthony Yagman, also with some Mendez police, who have roles with drugs and medicines, crimes with kids, and with their families, where they're attaching little kids and their families to fake uses of drugs, fake ties to strangers, fake natures of ties to whole fake transcripts, because they have roles with wire crime acts and methods with other police departments and their families in the same houses, and the FBI and other agencies, and foreign and domestic medical and military. And then they pretend people are, what they think about others don't even know me. These are people that, where there are some exceptions, they take pictures pretending to know people. I never had anything to do with Joshua Julian. I know they repeated his name to me by the people involved with the Hartford Hospital planting evidences with my neighbors. Ray Clo has roles with people with the name Mark Violet, and he has roles with a Joshua Asabi Bajaria, and other people involved with police forms and people with courts with foreign bodies, and overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved with them learning about themselves and others, planting federal evidence as crimes, rules with remote uses of both sides of criminal and civil cases, and the interbranch and the people tied to them at the same time. Jeremy Gruel and Asabi Bajiro recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with predicate acts with federal evidence as crimes with people from Middletown through time involved with kids camp prisons. And these are people involved, people that also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed them involved through time with Whiting Forensics and state police and mayors and people associated with mayors, conversations with them. And that's also with Eric Jensen has some kind of girls that he used to tell me about, and I don't even want to repeat it, with the name Jennifer. Then then they made a picture of me and mirror them. I don't know them. That was after they graduated. I never saw them having anything to do with them. Her neighbor is one of the mayors involved with his daughter, increasingly putting predicate acts with people planting evidence sequence shifts, but identity theft, fraud, slanders against me. The roles with used remotely, criminally foreign influenced investigators, in elections locations. So there are people with the computer department at Central Connecticut State University, and further involved at Trinity College with a Joshua Stryker too, planting evidences, lying about himself and others with the FBI and other state police and military, foreign and domestic, involved intercities on and off Trinity College and the spots next to it with the names on my street, and people tied to them who also reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed federal crimes with evidences that with them with corners near me, and where they bring up people's names with each other, and how they have the news roles. News attached me to fake conversations about the World Trade Center. WFSB has roles with this. So everyone stay calm, but we demand Fox News has remote uses of Judge Napolitano's website. See, presidents ask them to need help because the other side's sick, because their side's sick too. Then they want to, in other words, it's different when a president says something, they use their, in other words, it's different because they're forced to use names as is, leaving out the breaching method uses of them. When people blame America for things, that's maintained outcome, leveraged against our founders. They measure our founders with James Madison and George Washington communicated for us to communicate honestly about, which is about the extortion of George Washington, which honest treatments of that brings up how he was back, treatment nature, tortured, extorted, and enslaved. As were and through other countries individually grouped and together were by a breaching method that is also present. So the suburbs were, in other words, we could do things like that better than free. And who denies it, or that we have needs to and means to, they're just going to be owing. Oh, but we're just trying to protect money. That's not how you protect money. You want to protect money, follow mandated law. Don't pretend not to understand people. You want to bring up past things that people say and pretend they've been planting evidences and pretending it's because they're acting and want to see how people react. They tell you I know they were acting. They're really doing predicate acts with facts at the same time, though. This keeps just, collusions, blaming other things, others, ourselves for what the breaching method caused. That's one of the things that nature demonstrated to honest souls, black pupils, but we had other than honest souls allowed to make voicings. So increasingly, in other words, people tied to the name Cololo are involved with Wethersfield police or wire crimes and federal crimes with evidences with various courts, judges, and prosecutors and their family members, and people on Trinity College and CCSU, like with the name Paul Zano. Also with Rhode Island with them. There's a Johnson in Wales. This little Paul Zano is with a whole bunch of other countries and child defenders with the kids. And he's got people that live near him involved with it. Federal evidence is crimes. I think federal, also with WTNH has roles with more people with the principal upskirt nature and pictures on Twitter with people associated with them. There's a Jennifer Katapicki who called me Stony one time. I don't know how, in other words, these are people, I believe she's with California intelligence community or people involved with medicine or whatever. These are killers associated with mental health at hospitals to keep good people and good health care and human, everything positive, criminal and citizen natures of positive collusions with the negatives. Hartford only has like 300 streets. It might be like 500. They're stealing millions by and increasingly attaching everyone to fake conversations with others. In other words, so they won't get on paper. That's why WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves. They were planting evidences with judges and prosecutors on Trinity College's Facebook page, on the Facebook page of Wethersfield Police. They have people with the name Schumack involved with the intelligence community with child offenders, including some KKK black themed next to Trinity College too. They're black and KKK military themed and Confederate flag right on the campus of the principal child offender too, with this Joshua Julian, who's involved with the predicate acts on my street with people with guns more. So let's make sure we get the World Trade Center and these names. You go, it's all right. Oh, I'm free speech. I want to blame this group or that, including the FBI, because they're not alone. They're not alone with Robert Luskin, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. And fear God for when they speak for them. They came through 6 class campuses. Otherwise, this wouldn't even be debatable. I'm not even a lawyer. black pupils, predicate acts with facts, roles, and or natures. In other words, see criminal insidiousness. We need these phrases: criminal insidiousness, criminally foreign influenced, hyper criminally foreign influenced. This preaching method came from semi-ancient times before modern religions were even born. They're messengers. Obviously, well, everyone, the sciences became abridged. That's one of the things. Where the Constitution is about, we're supposed to get the Constitution unabridged. We have rights that are too numerous to list. You guys want to go back and forth. Oh, sue me then. Pick one name and sequence then. And stop playing these games with the courts I call as locations, reading of statutes consciously, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, leaving out exceptions in exception nature. Fear to God, if you could trace back to Central Connecticut State University, because before that phrase, American exceptionalism was popularized in the news, right through administrations. The intelligence community recorded themselves being used remotely, criminally foreign influence. When I was a little kid, there were people in the Britain from associated with the Central Connecticut State University who affect confessions at my grammar school here in Wethersfield. And the principal at the time, he also has roles of people I caught involved with the other principal child abuser. And I caught him with worse than the upskirt pictures. And there are more roles with that with upskirt pictures, more with the resource officers too, more with the kids and the families of the kids pretending they don't understand. Get them on paper. Don't be cowards, little kids. Get your cops on paper, one name and sequence. Let me show you how to think. Get their doctors on paper too. There's a Leahy family of doctors that have been attaching me since I was and others since we were kids to fake conversations with themselves, with the FBI and other agencies involved. Fear God. Chris, what's his name? Rick Faglione. He's also brought up his roles with the New Britain Superior Court. They got more roles with rape threats and people with the name KERR and KNERR. Also with a Brian Silver. Brian Silver, I saw recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by other people. I don't have to ask him. He's involved with New Britain Superior Court with federal evidence of crime, child abusers, roles with the child defender with their kids, at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, not legitimately with acting coaches and with the names along Church Street in Old Wethersfield, involved increasingly with federal crimes, with people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, right? We're in how they leak things because they're lying. They've been used remotely leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and sense. It's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by the same intelligence that will pretend other. They have roles with names from Wethersfield, from the World Trade Center, and they have roles with programs with the kids that they're using to cover live aggressions. There are roles of mayors with parks use criminally foreign influence. Tactically delusions raw. They have neighbors of the people too involved. Increasingly, Joe Aiello is one of the people that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, is involved with people who have roles with gun crimes and poisons crimes and untimely death spots and sexual medical offenders of kids with overt criminal enterprises. And his roles planting evidences with the intelligence communities, foreign and domestic, on and off Trinity College, on and off the spots next to it, like a fire department, on and off the campuses next to, not far from Trinity College, like the little kids' campuses. There's a Buckley High School. There's Aiello's kitchen there. And that guy who that whole family, there's women and his sisters are involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and federal evidences crimes with these people, with foreign and domestic, medical and military, people next to body dumping spots, people involved with their teachers, with the fake news, all along Route 3, federal evidences crimes. Jonathan Lionel sequence shifts with them. These are people increasingly involved with the Wethersfield police, switching names, forging names, and with the state police, whiting forensics with the same house /S. They have roles with Afghan leaders and kids since I was a kid, increasingly involved with them with federal crimes on and off Trinity College, and the same ones on and off Central Connecticut State University, with foreign and domestic military families, planting evidences on my street, all sides of my house, bringing up their names to me and my name to them. And then they sustain that, and then they make stuff out. They have ones with the name Riley involved with some interreligious spots, and where they have they make confessions also in the form of statements. So there's a Miss Riley who was my algebra teacher who has roles with an Adam Domain and Eric Mendez and other in his Mendez family. These are police families next to Fox Connecticut News, involved with wire crimes with Fox Connecticut News and Weatherfield Police and Hartford police families, Rock Hill police families, Newington police families, and wire crimes with the ones on my street. And it's nothing personal. They brought it up. These are ones with foreign names, hyper foreign involved. These are overt criminal enterprises and people associated with the witness protection program involved, and co-defendants, a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, like a Jonathan LeConte. His daughter is involved with federal crimes with evidences also on Trinity College and CCSU with the people on my street who intercities have roles with untimely deaths and shootings and tied confessions. And this is also relative to where and how they pretend not to understand people, because the police departments are increasing. They had fake conversations with me as a kid because they planted evidences with the kids that also gave affidavit. They wanted to write fake things in databases. Didn't even have conversation. They had me go in a car with them. They're putting fake things, locking kids currently foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, has conscious uses of the departments individually grouped and together. They have roles with federal evidences, crimes, other natures of crimes, with acting coaches, acting professors at Central Connecticut State University. Now, these are also people involved with conjunctions to and adjacents to the state judicial branch offices, and the difference of that also used consciously, like Weathersfield Pizza has roles with a whole bunch of people at at Central Connecticut State University, involved intercampuses and with names in Weathersfield, with federal evidences crimes, and with people with medical campuses involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences with the people on and off the state judicial branch offices, as the ones also involved on off the state corrections offices. These are people, increasingly people tied to the same house/S with wire crimes and federal evidences crimes, the Weathersfield Police and state police, that have been spreading lies about me to the boxing gyms in Connecticut through time. Get them on paper, one name and sequence with those courts. Let's go. One-way reports. Follow mandated law for Fox News. Please have some class, people. Get them on. See the words of that, you use of that word class. I'm going to show you what they're doing with this. They're playing games here. See how there's how you can be in the same, you're in a classroom, so you're in the same class with someone. But you can see, someone could be in your class, your grade, but you never see them around ever. And then at the same time, there's that third definition of class, where all three are used to measure and maintain, such like how other things others ourselves are blamed besides the breaching method, which is a scientific value, with the question, what caused slavery? Fear. It still is here.